Well, good morning, Lais. It's,
Morning.
it's an absolute pleasure to see you again. Probably just for the people listening, I'll explain how we come into contact. So I was on a recent trip to Brazil where I was presenting to a conference there with the Maple Bear Group, and we toured some schools. And Lais, we had the privilege of coming to Escola Concept, São Paulo. And you gave a presentation and a tour around the school. Before I get into that, before I came to Brazil, I knew that the Maple Bear was affiliated with Grupo SEB. So I went to their website, and I've not seen a website like this for an educational educational organization. Here's what they say. Here's what you say as Grupo SEB. Focused on disruptive and innovative pedagogical proposals that develop different skills, preparing the kids for the challenges of the future. And then refer to themselves a team of more than 6,000 transformation agents, not educators. I find that fascinating. And then our purpose is to transform people through education. We believe that curious people with a critical sense, creativity, and autonomy anchored in human values and continuous learning are able to transform the world. And when I read that, sitting here in Canada, I thought, wow, am I really going to see that? And I did. What are some of the strategies? What are some of the ways that you've managed to make that magic happen?
Well, so here at Escola Concept, we are part of this larger group, which is group SEB,
Yes.
And our school's program, it's really designed to nurture those dispositions that really support our learners to be researchers, explorers, innovators, designers, right? So we can all, as a team, instill and co-create those lifelong learners' skills or mindset, right? For us to be able to in a challenging way in real life situations, right? To really think about what kind of human beings we want to be, all right, to become, or
yes,
who we are in the society. So I think this is like in a nutshell. I think learning is mediated and facilitated and assessed, right, through thought-provoking proposals, like they are connected to real life situations, right? So when we say that we are disruptive, it means that we're not that school that in which kids will go and get their paper like grades, their grades, and just when they leave school, it's just like, okay, we're done. No, kids really have an opportunity to impact, to understand, to go beyond the school's walls. I think a little bit about the challenges that we instill, right? Not only in the children, the learners, but also in the teachers, right? Because for the school to be a place for where thinking thrives and it's valued, rather than the technical part of like doing it just like for the sake of doing it, okay, tasks for the sake of doing it. We need to make sure we are instilling those dispositions that and sending the message across that thinking is really valued. For instance, what they have to say, how they build, how they co-create, and the whole team. I've grew a lot. I've been working here for 5 years, and I've grew so much in this journey, and I bet teachers grew too, and learners too. So I think that's like how can we positively impact the world we live in, and the school is part of the world, so it cannot be detached, right, from that, I think.
I love what you just said, by the way, about the fact it's not just about the students, because if the teachers and the educators and the transformation agents don't model that curiosity and that creativity and that inquisitiveness, no, I'm going to phrase it a different way. When the educators model it, then it's infectious to the students because they see it in action. One of the things that leapt off the page for me during the tour, during the visit, was the degree to which the learning appeared to be personalized, made personal to the individual learner. And you use a lot of project-based learning, don't you? Can you give us a glimpse into how that works, Lais?
Yeah. So I think we are also in the journey in the matter of working on differentiation, personalization, the uniqueness, right? Kids with special rights, kids that don't have special rights in terms of all children matter, all kids that we want to understand who they are. So for us, what really matters is that we are teaching for understanding, meaning that we only move forward if they really understood some certain kind of subject, or we are teaching for them to change, to be the change, to make changes, right? And I think now, in terms of PBL, we started our journey back 5 years ago, reflecting upon project-based learning, with like a strong inspiration from Buck Institute. But then I think we've been evolving and learning from our identity, and then we do have inspirations from the Buck Institute, from PBL works, and then also from the idea of progettazione that comes from Reggio Emilia approach. That brings this idea of impact, and also comes up with the picture that the projects are relations, right? Relations to the real world, relations to let me think about relations in movement, and valuing this idea of potentializing this feeling of belonging, this social emotional, being able to understand the child as a whole, in a holistic way. And I think, right, from some of the actions that we put in place this year, and I think this is something that is important to emphasize, that belonging is the theme of the year, and we've been growing in the year after year. So we started with the like PBL works, and now we're going for more like something that we call like a projectual approach, and now we are already moving forward. And I think this comes a lot after the pandemics, because we as a school, our school grew double the size during the pandemics. And I think this has to do with the movement of thinking forward. I think we are really moving forward to think about the futures of education. So what are the different paths? So see, I see that this is an evolution. So we're going from project-based learning to more towards like a service learnings, more towards to like futures thinking. Think about the multiple possibilities. So one project has several different outcomes for different children. So I think this is like we are in movement. Right? We're only 5 years old, and we've been growing in the matter. So I think with regards to this personalization, it comes with this idea of this uniqueness. Like each group has a different journey, and each child on that group has a different journey, right? And we have this quote, right, from La Rosa, Bom Dia La Rosa, and he says that we only learn if it just like crosses us, if it goes through us. And I think this is something that it brings this idea of personalization. So it's not like following a PBL approach only, but it's about bringing inspirations
Yes.
and drinking from different fountains and listening. Like, let's see what children have to say about that. Oh, I can give you a very interesting example.
I'd love that. Yes. You
We
anticipated my question. I was just going to say, can you give us something for us to get a deeper lens into this?
Yeah, and I think when it comes to this idea of this projectual, like that's how we call it, progettazioni, it means that we are trying to build a shared sense of things. Everything is co-created. So I have this group. It's a group for pre-K4 group. They're 4 years old, and the kids came with this question: which water is bigger, the river water or the ocean water? And then if you shallowly analyze this question, you would go like, okay, the river is this big, the ocean is this big, that you can give answers, but that's not what we do. We pose questions.
Yes.
So if we think about thought-provoking questions, so we try to understand what children meant
Yes.
with that statement, right?
Yes.
With that question. And then we started understanding that they wanted to understand better how the water moves, what are the pathways of water. So, and they try to, because somehow the river can be connected to the ocean. And then by actively listening to the children, we were able to understand that they wanted to discover how water flows in our body. So water is in our blood.
Yes.
Water is when we drink, that goes down our throat into our stomach.
Yeah.
And how does it move? And then they moved forward, understanding how water and the pathways go in the small electronic circuits.
Yes.
Right? How does it move? What are the different pathways, and how water moves in the pipes?
Yes.
And how water moves in the taps in our house, and how does it work? And they ended up by culminating the project, understanding what are the different pathways from delivery man or people who deliver pizzas and around the city, because our city is one of the largest cities of the world. And we have lots of different pathways. A traffic jam, it's a pathway. What are the maps, right? And I even connected to Daniel Corsia, that he created this app that's named the Happy Map. And he mapped the different pathways. I lived in Boston, so he also created this different maps, so you could choose which pathway you could go. The shortest way is not always the happiest path. So I think this is something that children were instilled to think. So from understanding which water was bigger, the river or the ocean, they were able to expand their thinking to many different ways and many different layers, understanding the city. And they went to visit this company that we have here in Brazil that's named iFood. They deliver food all over the city. And they were able to really value and understand other people's roles in the society, right? Either by understanding how water flows in your body, how water flows in our houses, in the city, how people flow, how the city flows. So they are only 4-year-old, and they already have a really broadened perspective. So I think it's about enlarging their perspectives. And these, that's how this degree of personalization comes from this idea of researching, valuing subjectivity, right? Going beyond and connecting things. And I think that the team of design technologies, that's how we call here in our school, is a team that really helps us and supports us by sewing things together, like connecting how movement can be connected, how arts can be connected, how can we really make sure that we are creating an environment that it's real, right? That people belong,
Yeah.
and that's not disconnected, and that each and every one of the children are able to contribute with their thinkings, with their, and
Absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to see what will be the unraveling of this project next term.
Yes.
Now they're going on vacation, and they will for sure be able to see the world from different lenses now. And I really want to see that.
Yeah.
I know. So I have like plenty of examples to share
Yes. Yeah.
with all that.
One of the other things that really caught my attention was how you intentionalize through the language, through what you name things. So, for example, my understanding is that you don't have classrooms, you have learning spaces, you have a mindfulness garden. The library is referred to as Inspiration Alley. And all of this sends a powerful message. How important is that type of approach, that strategy of embedding the creativity into the structures? How important is that to the learning culture of the school?
Well, definitely the language is one of the cultural forces that really impacts the relations that we establish with the learners, with the community.
Yeah.
And considering that language shapes culture, right? And we really want to instill this message that everything we do is intentional.
Yes.
Everything, it's every niche, and this is something that we really share with the teachers, that everything is carefully, thoughtfully planned and put together, and we do make mistakes for sure, but I think this is something that it's valued.
Yeah.
It's like we say that we embrace the process, and by embracing the process, we mean that we are really into naming, being able to name and notice that intentionality. And for in this perspective of really teaching for understanding, I think this is really connected, because learning space, it's not like an old-fashioned classroom, because it's not about only the language. It's also about the attitudes. And then when you change the language, when you change the way you communicate, right? For instance, when you are writing reports, we do have report cards, but the way we communicate, we send the message in a descriptive way, not judgmental. We send the message that we are growing. So our report cards are called feedback on progress and growth, because we do believe in the culture of feedback. So we are going to sit and say, look, in your student-led conference, so here the children, they are able to lead their meetings, right? And explain, I learned this or that. This is something that I need to grow. And this is also about a feedback on progress and growth, because we are in this ongoing process. We're not, nobody's ever ready, right? We're never ready. So we want to make sure we are using that language that's favoring us to understand that the way you used to communicate as a school, and like worldwide, because I was already a teacher in other countries, it's not serving the purpose of allowing children to grow and be creative and understand other perspectives and listen with understanding and empathy and consider different perspectives and think flexibly, because things used to be like more fixed, I would say, right? We do have fixed things. Things are really fixed. So when we have a mindfulness garden, we send the message that it's not only a garden, it's a garden for contemplation. And once again, it's a happy place. It's a happy journey. Would I rather go through a short path, or would I rather go through a contemplative, a subjective path, a path of growth, like, I don't know. I think this is all about that. I think the language is all about that. It's about understanding, how am I going to invest time in the other cultural forces, for instance? How am I going to model that?
Yes.
So how do I model that thinking is valued if the tasks that we are instilling are not thought-provoking? Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't
So I
make
think
any sense at all.
that so there are many schools that might say, oh, we really think kids are protagonists, they are agents, but then when it comes to the practical part, they don't know how to do it. And I think that we are learning, and I think that's the how we break the paradigm of from a traditional school to an avant-garde school. When we come to say we are work in progress. I think that's how I would define. We are like lifelong learners, or maybe that's this new trending, right? That people say that we are wide long learners, right? Because there are many ways, and now we are thinking forward. We're like thinking about the multiple futures that we can envision and try and consider. Maybe we don't know, right? Who would have thought that would have a pandemic on our way?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And then I can consider that we grew a lot.
Yes.
Right, in terms of amount of children, because we doubled our size. We had 400 children when the pandemic started. When the pandemic ended somehow, we had 800 learners. I think it sends a message that we are on a pathway.
Absolutely.
And we're learning, and I think that's how I would say that language impacts relations, impacts interactions, impacts how we manage, how we see perspectives. And children that really failed in other schools, when they come here, they feel valued, and they say, wow, I can show that this is learning, and how learning looks like in this concept. It's very interesting to see, and really meaningful. I think from someone who's been here since the very first beginning, it gives me the sense of pride and joy and belonging. And I think that's why the belonging is the central aspect for our consideration, because
without belonging, not much is going to happen, is it? Well, things will happen, but not necessarily down a positive way. Just one more thing I'd like to ask you. I do the majority of my work is in schools. I work with businesses and other types of organizations, but in schools, it's mostly in the public education sector. And I always ask this question: if you had some advice for the public school system, given what you've you've already answered many this question really, but just what would be a couple of the things that you would suggest that they could learn from what you're doing?
What I would say is that as a suggestion, is super related to our mission, our values, and our pillars, right? We have 4 pillars in our school: collaboration, entrepreneurship, digital fluency, and sustainability. And I think these 4 pillars, they can support all schools to reflect upon change. Because, for instance, sustainability can appear not only as taking care of nature, taking care of the environment, because I think this is also embedded, but sustainability can also appear as sustainability of results, sustainability of impact. How do really impact? And I think public schools, they have the power of really impacting a wider community. And when it comes to sustainability, we really want to consider that how are we developing citizenship? How are we acting upon protecting the environment? And environment, as our houses are also environments, right? About considering social responsibility. And I think social responsibility is a key word, because when you teach, I was a public school teacher, and I think that we need to think about our actions, right? How we are thoughtfully consuming and producing things. And
Yeah.
I think teachers, they really impact on this this impacts for our world like tomorrow, right?
Yes.
And I think this is something that is super related. And I would also go for one of our pillars, that's because I think this is also provokes us to reflect upon entrepreneurship, because it's not about opening a company. We're not teaching our children to, oh, you have to go and open a company, because that's not tangible for most of the people in our world, right? But it's about learning from mistakes, learning from failure, and embracing the process, because I think teachers, they also need to embrace this process, right?
Mhm.
How can we instill and value creativity if
Mhm.
we're teachers that are doing the same things over and over and over, right? How can we, because this is a very interesting question, because I offer professional learning here in our school for the teachers, and I always ask them, what do you do here that's different from what you've done before? Because I've been teaching for 19 years. And now I'm a coordinator, right? Like teaching and learning coach. But after 19 years, I can say that it was very like 1 years, meaning that
Yes.
each and every
Yes.
one of the years, it was all different. But it was not 1 year repeated 19 times.
No.
So if you consider children as protagonists, agents of their own learning journeys, and if we really want to say beyond our speech that we want them to think critically, we want to allow them to fail. And teachers also must understand that failure is part of the process for them to be able to take risks. So entrepreneurship is about understanding how to deal with frustrations. We all have frustrations. So I think this is another piece of advice. So first one would be considering the sustainability of results. The second one is embracing failure, because and I think this is something that is very interesting, because sometimes teachers see themselves as heroes, sometimes they see themselves as victims. And we need to balance that and empower educators to be able to really, and I think that this is something that's connected to the third piece of advice, really collaborate.
Yes.
And I think this is something that in our school, we say that we are one school, 3 campuses, right? One school here in São Paulo, one school in Ribeirão Preto, one school in Salvador, and we really collaborate, and our school is always open for other schools. So as you could come and see, we're transparent. We work together to value and recognize the individual skills, right? Because we want to achieve enhanced results. So if we want that to happen, we need to be able to respect, embrace multiple perspectives. And this is super connected to the entrepreneurship mindset, right? Because we are all working towards a common goal. Right? And I think this is something that it's really connects to my practice. And I would say also the last piece of advice, to connect with people digitally, because the world is not that big anymore. It can be bigger, but everything it can be in our hands. We just need to be able to be immersed in this digital world, being able to grow, right? Constantly grow, right? And there are so many tools to be explored. And I was a teacher in the US, and now I connect to teachers and an exchange, and we can open doors for this real social impacts that we are, this real this common goal that we are looking for, and thinking about global experiences, not only for educators, not only for children, not only for communities, but for everybody in a more holistic and I don't know, a wider or broad way. I don't know. I think there are many ideas, right? I'm so passionate that I could be talking.
You are indeed. And Lais, this has just been fascinating talking to you and getting your insights. You've been very generous, and I say a huge thank you. And I really hope that we can continue this at another time.
Definitely, for sure. You have my contacts, my phone, my email. Feel free to reach out, and I'd love to continue those conversations and maybe I don't know, research or do something together. Some sort of partnership.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm thinking the same thing. Thanks so much, Lais.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.